myself. I want to, give lots of time for questions here, so I don't want to take up a lot of time with that. But I came to the LPPA in 2017, and that year I ran as township auditor, and I went through a ballot challenge. Um, the Republicans threatened to write in against me after I won in court, and the overwhelming takeaway from that was the fact that we didn't really have any state level help with elections. So I decided to join the state board the following year to try to push a more, elections focus at the state level. Um, we have done an amazing job with that. In 2019, we elected 47 libertarians. This year, I'm hoping we can double or triple that using the Moulton maneuver. The main players in that project were me, Dr. Moulton, and Wes Benedict. The three of us kind of drove that. I mean, the whole idea was to push the fact that this initiative would work so that we could ramp it up in the future, and that's our hope. I've run 2 state level paid petition drives. That's a lot of work, but I've learned a lot at the for the statewide offices too. This past year, I ran for Auditor General. Now, candidate is not my niche. It's not my favorite thing to do. I do it when we need it. I ran for township auditor because I thought that it was low-hanging fruit and would be an easy win. It was not an easy win, but it motivated me to keep fighting and to learn everything I could about ballot access. I ran for Auditor General because we needed minor party status, and I wanted us to have 4 shots at that. I did end up getting the highest third-party vote totals in the state, but all 4 of us qualified. We needed 2% of the highest vote getter. So, we ended up with minor party status, which brings us a bunch of benefits. I probably don't need to go into all of that here. But in the past couple of years, when I came to the state board, our website was broken. We were having trouble collecting money, even renewing memberships. We were bringing in about $6,000 a year. This year, we're going to bring in 100,000. And that, a lot of that is due to our executive director, Kevin. But it's a team effort, and we're winning elections. Our membership went from under 200 to over 1,000 at this point. So, the main reason I'm running for chair is to keep this trajectory going, to keep us, on target, because these are long-term strategic goals. Before Kevin was our executive director, when him and I sat down together in 2018 and looked at ballot access, and he started putting all these overlay maps together, to stack petitions and things like that. That was what we talked about, was this long-term strategy to get us to a point where we're winning a bunch of local elections, then we can step up to countywide, and hopefully by 24 26 we can win a state rep and send somebody to Harrisburg. And I think it's attainable. I really do. I say it all the time. It's going to be in a rural area in Pennsylvania where we have a lackluster incumbent who is running unopposed, and we can have a libertarian who's motivated, who's like frontier project style, going to knock every door in the community, and we can elect someone. I really believe we're on our way. But it may be someone who's already served as a mayor or a supervisor in a small town. This is how we build the farm team. This is how we build our movement. It's got to be from the grassroots. Nothing is more important than our county committees. It's all local. Since I've been Eastern Vice Chair, there have been 11 counties who have organized in the Northeast. I started them on their way and helped them with an inaugural meeting, but those guys did all the work. I can't give them enough credit for what it takes to pick that up and start running. And we have a huge board now. We used to not even be able to make quorum, and now we have 37 people. So, that's a lot to manage, but it's wonderful that we have such a huge, diverse group and so many voices on this board. It's just been an absolute pleasure to serve with them. I know all of them. They're my working colleagues, and, I hope to be able to stay on and continue to work with these people because we're doing great things. So that being said, I'd be happy to take questions from everybody here. We got a big group, it looks like.
I'll try and manage it for you if I can.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. So who's got a question first? Just put your hand up and I'll call on you in the order that I see you.
Don't mind my hound. She's out there baying at something.
James, do I see your hand raised?
You did.
Okay. James, then Julie. Go ahead, James.
So I don't know much about your opponent in this race. how would you best compare and contrast yourself to them?
Well, Mark and I, we're friends for a long time. We're from the same county. He has run for office too and got high percentages. Really, Mark's superpower is like I've seen him pull together events at the last minute. He does a great job with that. I think that, he is a wonderful candidate and he's really good at messaging. I want to say good things about him because, he is a great activist in his own right. It's really not about, me and my opponent versus what we bring to the table. I think we do have a different vision for the party. I do think that we both have, elections experience. He's more focused in on messaging, it seems like, and I don't believe that that's the role of the chair. I think that's the role of our candidates. It's the role of our elected officials. You don't want your administrators to be the messengers of the party. I know that he did an AMA himself, and I would encourage you to go out and listen to that. We both do have a lot that we bring to the table.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Julie.
Hey, Jen, I have a question. You mentioned that we have, you have a lot more people at state meetings where you couldn't have to make quorums. I suspect this convention is going to be a large one. What is your plan to maintain professionalism within the organization? Some of the meetings have been painful with the shenanigans.
They certainly have. Believe it or not, I've been taking classes in parliamentary procedure and I'm like, reading Robert's rules cover to cover. Unfortunately, my husband comes into the room and he looks at me sometimes right before a meeting and I've got my nose buried in the back of Robert's rules and he says, "Oh no, it's one of those meetings, huh?" But it matters because sometimes when we get something contentious, we learn that it's better to go into executive session and take care of it rather than making it like a public fiasco. And the same thing goes with the fact that we need to maintain decorum. And I mean, we may get to a point with this board where we need to do something more like the way the National Convention was run, where we, like allow speakers to rise up. I hope we don't get to that. As long as everybody can, maintain professionalism and take their turn. A big part of it is everybody has to be heard. Like we really can't make these things shorter. Like, you speak for and against, and then, eventually, when you have nobody else who's going to be speak for or against, or, when somebody calls the question, and we need our board to get better at calling the question too. But really, we have a set of guidelines to work within that will help us maintain that professionalism. We just have to keep it on track. We don't really have a board anymore. We have an assembly. And I don't think that it's a problem. I don't want to reduce the size of the board. We actually talked about this in the bylaws committee about the fact that, counties are so excited to get up to their board vote that we don't think that it would be a good idea to take that away. Some states do this by congressional district and things like that, but it's such a huge success to get up to that membership total for a board vote that really is up to the chair to manage it. Not by taking away people's voices, but by just making sure the decorum is maintained in the meeting. Does that answer the question?
It does. I mean, that's your plan. I just wonder, I'm in another organization and the annual meeting is 200-300 people.
Yeah.
And they will allow 4 to 5 for and 4 to 5 against and stop.
And that's a good idea. And also just putting a time limit on things like, okay, we're going to discuss this for 10 minutes. And when we're done, the body has to vote to extend it. That helps too.
Yeah, because I was at one board meeting where 45 minutes was lost over a punctuation question.
Yeah.
And I walked out, as
Yeah.
did a whole lot of people that are never coming back.
Yeah. Libertarians are good about debating, the nuance of everything. It's unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so next I have Sam Robb and then Stephen Warhaftig in that order. Sam, go ahead.
Okay, Jen. I was asked this on my AMA. For those of you who don't know, I'm running for Westman Vice Chair, and I'm interested to get an understanding from you about what you think the responsibilities of your vice chairs are with regards to helping organize and run the party.
Absolutely. I've been a vice chair for 3 years. So, the main duty of the vice chair is to help organize counties who are unorganized and assist the counties in your region. I mean, you're the regional rep for that district. So, as a vice chair, it was always on my radar which county may be ready to organize. And I did a lot of things to make contact with people in those counties. During the Krawchuk and Kearns campaign, I actually bought 250 of each of their signs myself, and I drove up to the northeastern counties, and I just like put an email blast out there to, members and expired members and national members, and say, hey, I'm going to be in your area with signs. Will you come and meet me? Even if those places didn't organize for a year or two, I still had the contacts up there. So, that's always first and foremost. But then, the counties just would come to me for things like, I need literature for a table, or, can you give me my list of members? Do you have ideas for community outreach? And, you spend hours. I mean, especially during ballot access, I would spend 10 to 20 hours a week sometimes just answering people's questions and chatting. It's been really busy right now, I'm sure, as you know, since you're a vice chair. With all these new counties who have developed, they just have questions about starting bank accounts, and, you're their first go-to. But the job of the chair is to assist the vice chairs and assist the subcommittees. So, having been a vice chair myself, I hope that I can be there to back you guys up with, everything that you need.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
All right, Stephen Werhaftig.
Hi, guys. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Stephen.
Jen, I certainly feel that and agree that the current leadership has put us on a positive trajectory and a place where, in a direction where we want the LPPA to be. At the same time, there's no doubt there are many throughout the party who are saying, okay, is this going to be exactly more the same? There are things that people both agree with and disagree with in terms of the way things have happened in the past. So to me, the big question here is, besides continuing on whatever trajectory of success we have had, is something that you'll fulfill. What do you think are some of the things that need to change and that we need to do differently, that would put us on a slightly different path from the one that we're currently on?
Well, I mean, a lot of it right now is just managing this exponential growth. We're in a situation where executive director is doing like all the new member outreach and things like that. And it would be really a good idea to, engage our subcommittees. We started an internship program, which with a college out in Pittsburgh that we haven't really made the best use of. We could do better with social media campaigns, just more consistent campaigns. I think that we have the volunteers to do all these things. We need to take some of that pressure off the executive director to be answering all of this correspondence so that he can be fundraising and some of the other things that we need done. So, a lot of it would just be, housekeeping, trying to shift some of these things around as best we can. And again, the chair is more of a support role, rather than like, a true leadership role. It is leadership because you're trying to motivate volunteers, but, really the chair is there to help all of the subcommittees and interns. And, the other thing is, we certainly have some factions, and I would really like to engage them on some of these projects, the people who are not active at the state level that do a wonderful job with, some of these other kinds of outreach that we're not as good at. So, really it's managing the growth, making sure that the organization, everybody has all the tools that they need, and that we're actively doing press releases, that we're actively, putting social media content out there. People pay attention to that stuff in this day and age. We've done a wonderful job with ramping it up, but we can certainly always do better.
All right. Looking for more questions. Come on, don't be shy.
You guys are being easy on me so far.
Sure, Jen, I'll ask you a question. You've done a lot of work organizing in the Northeast, so I just want to know who's your favorite Northeastern county?
Oh, you're really gonna do that to me? Well, Adam, Monroe was the first, so what else can I say? Everyone
She's
is
got my
unique.
vote.
Everyone is unique. It's amazing to see how some counties are, like gun ho on running candidates, and other counties are like, really good about getting into local media, and other ones are more interested in like, doing community activism and doing cleanup projects. Like, I mean, it's amazing to see how diverse. And that's what I tell new counties when I'm organizing them, is you've got to find what you're most interested in. Some counties are all like kind of swarming like township meetings together just to like show a libertarian presence. So yeah, I mean, they all have. When I was writing my Eastern Vice Chair report for this last newsletter, I started to list out like all of the amazing things that have been going on in the East, and I just found that like they were too numerous to just like give everybody shout outs like I used to a couple years ago. We've just grown to the point where everybody's doing amazing things. So
Well, this will decide my vote. Out of all of the Monroe County chairs, which one is your favorite?
and can we be equal on that? There's only been two.
No, one has a much
Joel.
better. No, one has a much better beard.
That is true. One has a much better beard. I will give you that.
The real answer is Bradford, but we'll just,
right.
We know this.
Well, I didn't organize Bradford though. You guys were here when I came in, so you asked me which one was my favorite of those I organized, right? Really it was Monroe, Wayne Pike, and then after that, like everything has been in the past year. These other counties are just barely getting their feet under them. I can't wait to see what they do.
Nice pivot and save.
Okay, so Mallory she has a question, but she wasn't able to raise her hand, so I'm calling on her next.
Hi. So first of all, it's nice to meet you. My husband actually has been doing a lot in the Libertarian Party, and recently I've been trying to get involved in it as well. I just joined the Libertarian Party yesterday, and as somebody that is starting to get into politics, I find certain things very important that I can like attribute to my life and point in my life. And with the current government system being mostly Democrat, Republican in the eyes of everybody, how do you think that being a libertarian yourself and going out there and trying to raise awareness, how do you think that, it'll become important to do and, raise awareness so then we can actually be a big part of elections and get noticed?
Well, I think that the best thing that we can do, and by the way, welcome to the party. Thank you for joining. In my mind, I'm an elections person, and I know it's like super boring, but I think that if we can get people into these small positions and we can actually show people how we govern, that's better than, almost anything else we can do, which, I'm a township auditor. I don't make decisions about how the money is spent, but I do ask questions about, where they spent it, if that was what it was appropriated for. We have people who are constables. We have people who are in town council positions who are actually making decisions for their communities. We have people on the school board, which is a big deal because they're deciding how funds are spent. In this past year, they were deciding whether kids go back to school or not. So those couple of libertarian school board, members that we have around are really important. In fact, our current secretary, Kathleen Smith, was on the school board for years and years, and she talks about some of the huge spending projects that she blocked. Even like judge and inspector of election, we've seen through this past election that there's nothing more important than voter integrity and maintaining our elections. And if you have a libertarian in those positions, I mean, who better? It's not a Democrat or Republican. It's somebody who is almost, a true neutral from, the two parties that are, fighting for control of our lives. Auditor and the elections positions are great for that. Credit where credit's due. I'm an elections person, so I look at it through that frame. But Stephen Warhafig's on this call, and he has done just an amazing job with getting in the news. And they were actually, Chester County was just at their meeting for Westchester in the borough, and they managed to, what happened was the mayor didn't resign. So if she would have resigned when she became a state rep, it would have triggered a special election. And she waited to resign until the council was able to just appoint someone. Therefore, sidestepping a democratic election. And, they brought this to the borough and said, we don't think that this is right. And, they actually got a hearing on it, and they're going to, take a look at their case. So, doing that kind of activism too, it starts at the county level, it starts at the grassroots. We've got people who are doing like decriminalization efforts in their township, and it's gone really, really well. There's a lot of different ways we can be attacking this. Even if you just go out to a First Friday event and you pass out balloons to the kids, it's getting our name out there. Not everybody is as interested in elections as me. And I would say that there are still ways that you can go out there and help our movement and, normalize libertarians being in your community. That was long-winded and rambling, but that's what I'm good for.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
All right, who's next?
Come on, guys, not all at once.
And don't make me start calling on people.
Hey, Jen, this is Lindsay Goodhand from Lebanon County. So new affiliate here, and definitely excited getting this off the ground and everything. What advice would you have to a new affiliate county for getting your name out there as far as gaining interest and everything to not only libertarians, but also, people registered as Democrats and Republicans?
Yeah. I just, you guys' county is great. And first I want to ask, Lindsay, did you guys get into the CRM? Because I know I had been working on that for you, for the past several weeks, and I heard that it was resolved. So, I guess if not, get with me offline.
Okay.
But the very best thing that I think that you can do is run a candidate. I mean, for people to rally behind. And you have Tim McMaster, who is just excellent. So, I mean, you guys are well on your way. The other thing is consistency. Like, I mean, if you're holding meetings, that only a couple people show up to, don't be disheartened. Like every county has been there. You might show up and there might be 2 or 3 people. Just have your meeting the next month. If you have to, boost your Facebook posts, send out emails, send out texts to remind people, but, just keep going. You will eventually build it. Continue running candidates. And, when you have somebody to rally behind, that's really the best thing that you can do. But if elections aren't your thing, which it seems like for you guys it is, but if it's not your thing, get out there to parades like Lancaster does, or do like a community cleanup project like several of these counties are. They just had one in Pottstown. Berks does them pretty often. Chester does them.
We were actually there. we were at the Pottstown one and we were at the Berks one.
Yeah.
So we have been getting a lot more involved with that. Yep.
And that also is another thing that I recommend to people is go to your other counties, because they can give you ideas. Cross-pollination is really good in this movement, because then when you do need to go get signatures or something, your friends in the county next door are going to show up and help you. And that's a really big deal when you're at the crunch time for ballot access.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And as far as the CRM goes, I will definitely have to check with our chair, because I believe he was the one who was going to be the point of contact. So I will follow up with him.
Yeah, he kept messaging me about it, and I was, I kept following up. But as far as I heard a couple days ago, you guys were good. So I can always message him too. But as soon as you said you were from Lebanon, that's the first thing that popped to my mind.
But no, I appreciate it, because we took it upon ourselves. We have mailed out 529 letters to the registered libertarians in Lebanon County. Just kind of, we don't seem to be reaching it. We reach quite a few people on Facebook, but of course, there might not be people on Facebook, right? Not everyone is on Facebook. So yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, you guys are doing everything right. I mean, I can tell you, you're doing everything right. You guys are going to be up and coming, and you're going to be a powerhouse before long. I have no doubt in my mind. Yeah, Facebook, I found that you need to touch like 4,000 or 5,000 people before you actually get a response. Phone calls are better. You know, there may be 1 in 30 or 40. With physical mail, I found 1 or 2 in 100. I mean, that's just been my experience on outreach. I'm sure that there are people who are better with, you know, emails and Facebook and things than I am, but you know, social media, you have to put that ad in front of a lot of people before you're going to get a click.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And I actually come from a customer service
All
background.
right, there's a
so
question in the
calls,
chat from Zidden. Do you
Cut
think
her
there's
off,
an
Steve.
opportunity for folks in the LPPA to partner with outside organizations to support liberty policy? And if so, do you think that practice should be more widely
Absolutely.
encouraged?
You know, obviously I've worked with Americans for Prosperity on, you know, a few things. I think we could do with Gun Owners of America on, you know, some Second Amendment sanctuary issues up in the Northeast. You know, they've been wonderful. They've actually been out knocking on libertarian doors and, like, you know, passing on emails and stuff to us. So, you know, I've talked with Normal on and off. I think that we need to do more of that for sure. You know, that's how we, you know, for example, you know, right now we have a lot of resolutions and stuff that are coming out of our counties, and alone that, you know, we don't really get a lot of, you know, support on that. We're not that, you know, we're not heavyweights yet. But if we can get somebody to partner with us on that and amplify each other's voices, that's absolutely what we should be doing, is, you know, working on these issues, you know, single issues with organizations that we can partner with.
All right. Next question.
I mean, I can go again if there's somebody else.
James, go ahead.
So you talked earlier about you don't believe that you don't want the chair to be big on messaging, right? And that's for candidates. But how about like the party of Pennsylvania itself? Like your Twitter account, for instance, has had basically 3 posts since January. Do you think that needs to be increased? That we need to increase awareness through social media platforms that way? Or are you kind of thinking it's where it needs to be and that the focus should be somewhere else?
No, we absolutely, I'm just not very good at Twitter, and I'm one of the admins there. We absolutely need a Twitter person to be putting, you know, in Facebook content too. I do post things occasionally, like you might have seen during the election that I was, this past year, I, you know, posted something about all of our candidates. I mean, that was me running that campaign in the last few days before, the election, where I was highlighting every one of our candidates in Pennsylvania, but we need to be much more consistent about that. When the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania speaks, it's usually like we had an issue with, we had a lawyer who actually is part of our party who was working on a case with Act 77 about mail-in votings, and he came to us and asked us to write an amicus brief to be a part of this case, and the board ultimately declined to, and they wrote a press release that really it protected libertarian interest. It was a good press release, but at the end of the day, as chair, I wouldn't want to speak on that. I would want it to be coming from the party and from the board and from the group. You never want the chair to take a top-down approach to telling libertarians what they should think. You know, if we do have a social media campaign like that, it should be following our platform, and we should be, you know, doing really concerted campaigns with our candidates. You know, I saw it, and I mean, I'll bring it up. I mean, the year before I came to the board, we had all the Arvin Vohra stuff. And for any of you guys who are around, you know what I'm talking about. And our board decided to put out, or I think it was the XCOM signed off on it, you know, a resolution against one of Arvin Vohra's statements about military members. And the membership had a fit. I mean, they were so angry. They said that we, you know, the board doesn't speak for me, how dare you, and people threaten to leave the party. That's what happens when leaders within the party and on the XCOM try to talk down to libertarians and tell them what to think. We absolutely need to have more active social media campaigns, but it shouldn't be me talking down to people.
Thanks.
Yep.
If I may dovetail on that, it sounds like we have a volunteer for social media. Just saying.
I've been volunteering for months.
Well,
yeah, that's definitely something that we need
Adam
to
can
develop.
speak to that.
All right. Next up, we have Bonnie and then Steve Warhaptic. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Cool. So I just kind of wanted to piggyback off of something that we talked about earlier. We talked about the board and its size and how large it is. And I personally kind of have an idea of your answer here, but I wanted to hear you speak on it. What is your comfort level and experience running meetings? Are keeping things on task without issue or frustration? Yeah.
Well, I don't get ruffled very easily. That is absolutely true about me. I work in healthcare finance and I am in a customer service management role, and I get a lot of people yelling at me on the phone every day. So, that's not an issue. I'm going to say my first board meeting that I ever chaired at the state level was back in 2018. And it was really rough. It was Steve and Dr. Moulton were walking me through everything and helping me through all the motions. It really is an acquired skill. I'm the chair of the board of auditors in my township. I've been serving for 4 years of a 6-year term. I've been the chair for the past 3 years. I have run state board meetings. Sometimes when Steve's not there on time. Back in 2018, I was very nervous when, it's okay, the chair's not going to be there and it's my turn. Now I have no nerves about it. We just go through, we check off who's there, and we start the meeting. I also was the chair of our bylaws committee this past time around. And really when we're organizing new counties, I need to chair those first meetings. So I have a lot of experience in that role. When you look at it from that point of view, I couldn't even tell you how many meetings I've chaired at this point. It's well within my comfort zone. And like I said, I'm getting better with the parliamentary stuff because as things get larger and sometimes more contested, you just have to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Steve, go ahead.
Hi, Jen, it's me again. And I want to circle back to something. Sorry, I said circle back. I want to go back to something that you just were talking about regarding press releases. So some of you folks know that getting into mainstream media is a pet project of mine. And the reason why I'd like to do it is because when you get an op-ed published in local papers or things like that, 99% of the readers are not libertarians. So instead of being in a social media group where everyone automatically agrees with you, there's a chance you can speak to somebody to say, here's my perspective on it. So as an example, recently the local newspaper went to the top 2 parties to say, what do you think about Biden's speech, with predictable answers. When we called up this reporter and said, you didn't call us, and we expect to always be called to get the libertarian viewpoint, we got an agreement that we're always going to get called on that. So the question that I have is this: what you said felt a little bit like, understandably, where a chair perhaps shouldn't be speaking on behalf of all the members on the one hand. But on the other hand, the way I would view it is, we have a published platform, we have a published perspective on what is right and wrong and what should happen in our communities. And to say something is happening out there in the state that we disagree with or we agree with, and here's why, I find something I find to be very valuable. So the question I have is, would you support doing something like that? And if need be, if something needs to be, and I'm not volunteering, by the way, for anything here, Steve, but would you support, I know Steve already, but would you support campaigns that would get in major publications, in major websites and media across the state that would say, this is the LPPA's position on this important issue? For example, the upcoming primary election, here are the resolutions, et cetera. And if so, if the requirement for being published is it needs to have the chair's name on it, would you support that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Steve, I think that one of the big factors in the stuff that you release is you usually put it in Slack for your county to look at, and everybody discusses it. And, you know, you send it to, you know, several of us sometimes before you publish it, and we read it. There were definitely times when I was on the state board where the media contacted us and asked for a statement from the chair. And, you know, in those situations, of course, you have to give it. I remember one time in particular where they contacted us about a candidate who had a criminal record. And, you know, at that point, you know, it was a local level candidate. And, you know, we answered very truthfully that, you know, our counties are the ones who nominate, and we support their nomination. You know, it was a very simple, quick answer. Yes, absolutely. You know, we do need to make those statements, but it's a matter of, you know, the chair shouldn't ever be doing it alone. We should be going by our platform. You know, we have committees for this. And with something as big as the resolutions, we went to the state board to ask for approval before we put all of that out and put our position out. I would never be comfortable saying vote yes, yes, yes on those referendums by myself without, you know, the board weighing in on it.
Thank you.
All right, who's next? Oh, come on, I saw somebody with their hand up, right?
There's a lot of people here for not as many questions.
My hand wasn't, Steve, but Jen just answered the question that I had about when the chair needs to put things up following the platform. So that was my question.
Yeah. You know, we when we had some of those you know, questions like that from the media, and it was very timely and we needed an answer, like, you know, within the next, you know, few hours, you know, usually we would at least talk among us, among, you know, the XCOM, or, you know, about what, you know, the best position to put out there was. We haven't had any of those recently, surprisingly. Knock on wood.
Yeah, because you brought up Mr. Vora's situation, and
Yeah.
I was frustrated by that, and I was frustrated by the people who were angry.
Yeah.
You know, it was military and police, and I know people who are police, and they're local. I'll play basketball with the teens and not arrest anybody for 6 months. And we could have had 10 more members of the party until Mr. Vora came out and then was not
Yeah.
spoken. It alienated a lot of really good people.
And that is exactly what I'm talking about when I say the chair shouldn't be doing things like that. Like, I don't think the leadership should act like Irvin did in putting out those kind of positions, because it's very polarizing. I think that the chair is an administrator rather than a messenger. And, you know, there are certain things that we have to do, but when you're, especially when you're taking that kind of a stance just to be inflammatory and get attention, you know, whether people agree with you or not, somebody's going to leave the party, and we don't need anyone leaving this party. We're not big enough as it is.
Excellent point. Just looking for hands. Paul.
Jen, what are your top 3 goals for your term?
Well, number one, I want to ramp up the Molt maneuver. I mean, that is a really big deal to me. You know, we keep saying 100 elections. I think we can win 150. That is my very near-term goal, is to get those letters out, recruit the candidates. And the truth is, once we do that, we're going to have ballot access experts in all the counties to help us get through 2022. You know, so that is a really big deal. Next, I would probably say, just managing the growth, whatever structural changes that we need to make in order to, handle this level of work that we have. I know our executive director is a little bit overwhelmed with, just answering Facebook messages and correspondence and, things like that. I really want to make sure that we have a good team around that. And last, we only have 22 counties left. I want to see the whole state organized, and I think that we can get there. We only have 3 left in the East. Especially once we get to 22 and we have, the big gubernatorial race and we have a candidate to rally around. But even this year, I think it can be done. We need to get every single county in Pennsylvania organized with a libertarian committee so we can be doing these local things and winning local elections. And get them up to board votes too. If we have 67 people on that board, that's cumbersome, but that's my job to manage.
Very good.
Well, if I'm not seeing any hands, I'm going to start calling on people.
No, you're not. Stop it, Steve. You don't have any questions for me, Mr. Chair?
Questions from me to you?
No, yeah, questions from you to me.
Wow. God, where do I start on this? Now, we worked together for the past 2 years, and I've seen you grow as an activist. I've seen you grow into the leadership position. And I know you have developed that thick skin. And I really do appreciate your counsel on so many things. When we're talking about ballot access, there is nobody better, and I guess at this particular point, Sam had to answer a question during his AMA. And as you remember, I started with my exit strategy very early on in this particular.
Yeah, your exit strategy was for me to run.
So with that being said, it's a prudent thing to do to come up with the next level of leaders. The next group of leaders that are going to be taking over, people who are going to be helping with the ballot access, the paid petition drive, and all that other stuff. Do you have people in mind for your exit strategy? Do you have people in mind to help take over for ballot access when you finally say, "Dear God, I've had enough of these people. I need to take a break"?
We have a couple dozen excellent people that I think are going to be ready to take over sooner than later, honestly. And I think that more are going to be coming to us. I just can't even say enough. It's not like we have, the number of people who are active that you can count on one hand anymore. I'm not going to call them out and name names because they're probably thinking, oh no, I don't want to do that yet. But you know what? In a year or two, I think they're going to be ready. And some of these people are longtime activists, and some of them came to us through the Jorgensen campaign. I honestly think that, we have a lot of up and coming leaders. And like I said, the longer we're here and the more we grow. I mean, people ask me all the time, if you want to get into leadership in the party, what do you need to start with first? And I say, get active in your county, get active in the subcommittees. We have jobs for you. That's one thing that we're not as good at, reaching out to people and saying, okay, what is it that you want to do? John Fetzko and Joy, they've really started with, the volunteer calls and, the call to action stuff. But we need to build that out and, give more of these people jobs to do because there's so much work to do. But yeah, there's definitely people in mind, Steve.
All right, James.
So we all know there's a gigantic elephant in the room as far as a divide in the party right now.
Yes.
If you win, what will you do, and what will be your strategy to keep us all together? Because as you said, we can't be losing anybody right now. But there's a certain percentage, that's a large percentage of a certain caucus that doesn't want the rest of us here for the most part. How do we work with people who don't want us to be here?
Well, I thank you for the question because it is the elephant in the room. The one thing that I will say is that I don't play the infighting game. Like, I don't do it. you're going to have to go back a long ways before you can find me in a flame war with somebody. There are literally situations where I have somebody, asking me questions that are intended to start an argument, where I'm ignoring it, and over in another Slack channel, I am talking to them about recruiting candidates. If anybody who has a productive question about the business of the party, I am willing to work with them hands down. And, no matter what caucus you're in, I'm not at war with any caucus. It's sometimes the disadvantage because I don't defend myself, but I just refuse to engage. And I'm going to continue to refuse to engage with negativity. I don't play the infighting game, and I'm not about to start. So I think that, these activists are very passionate. I think that we need to find things to work together on. I hope that they'll come to the table with me. I know that they're good at a lot of things that I'm not good at, and we need to leverage all those skills. Like I said, we need all of us. So anybody who's willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with them. I have started to separate my Facebook into personal and professional. Anybody can reach me through my chair page. If they want to reach me through Facebook, anybody can reach me at my party email. And, anybody who says, hey, do you want to set up time for a call? I'd be happy to do that. I can't always answer a call out of the blue because I do have, 2 kids and a management job. But if you reach out to me, I will get back to you within 24 hours. And, we can have a conversation about anything. And if somebody is going to give me negative or critical feedback about something I'm doing, I'm willing to take that too. I'm willing to listen. I'm the first to admit when I'm wrong, and I'm not right all the time. So you can say all of these things, but I think that in practice I've showed them, time and time again. I was the chair of the I was the secretary of the national delegation. Steve was the chair this time around, and we had some tough questions come up, and I was mostly fielding the questions from the delegation. And they were tough, but it was fine, and we had some things that we needed to revamp, and it was okay. I hope that we can continue that working relationship, even with the people that I disagree on some things. I still agree with them more than I disagree with them.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
Jen, we've got a question from Matt Ferraro. He apologizes, his mic is giving him problems, but he asked, you said that your opponent's good at messaging, but as chair, you have to oversee the growth of the party. It's difficult to change the minds of Democrats and Republicans, especially established Democrats and Republicans. So what plans do you have to bring in new blood, younger people, folks interested in the liberty movement? During the 2020 election, there were many people that Matt says that he spoke to that didn't even have an idea of who or what libertarians are. How do we reach those guys?
Really, the most growth that I have seen has been through these direct mail campaigns, bringing people who are already libertarians, but, aren't necessarily involved with the party. And then through the big messaging campaigns, I was always a small election person. Like, I wanted to win auditor. I didn't care about president. And I've changed my mind on that because I think that, Joe Jorgensen was the best thing for organizing this party that I've seen in the time that I've been involved. So it's really important for us to run people for Congress, run people for Senate, run people for governor, seats that we can't win. Because that is where, the local newspapers may pick us up, and, maybe we're not going to break into the Philadelphia market, but we sometimes, in the more rural communities do get on TV. People pay attention to that media. And, just speaking from my own experience, now that I'm serving in office, I'm making connections with people who, are Democrats and Republicans. They have only seen the caricature of libertarians on social media, where they think that we're uncaring, we have a very sophomoric view of the world. But once I actually started serving with them and discussing things with them, you agree with them. You tell them you agree with them on the things that you agree with them on, and you just kind of keep quiet on the things that you don't agree with them on at first. And Jeff Hewitt kind of taught me this. He is one of our top elected officials in the country. He is a supervisor over in Riverside County in California. But, you know, eventually, once you start to build that rapport with them, they'll start to ask you what you think on the things that, you know, you may not necessarily agree on. And, you know, now in my community, I have a very good relationship with my local Democrats. You know, we had a pretty robust discussion about these ballot initiatives because, you know, we have opposing views on them. And, you know, the Republicans have been reaching out to me too every time they have an election. And, you know, I think that some of these people will start to come over or at least not be as hostile to us. I think that when I run for auditor again in a few years, you know, it may be easier with, you know, less people attacking me and, you know, trying to challenge me off the ballot for no reason and things like that. You know, the biggest thing is to get out there and make ourselves seen in our communities because we do have a great message. But, you know, when we're only, you know, hanging out in brewery basements plotting revolution, we're not getting it out there. We need the press releases, we need the candidates, we need the social engagement with our communities. The more of that we do, the more people are going to flock to us, especially now when everybody is sick and tired of the status quo. I think that everything we're doing, we just need more of it.
Isa, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Questions? We have 5 minutes left, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm reading Where the Red Fern Grows to Deanna, and I was thinking that, you know, we may go over tonight and I might not get to read to her, but you guys are being easy on me.
I've never seen libertarians not want to talk about something until
I
now.
know. They're making me
I
do all the
see-
talking.
I see Adam has his hand up.
He does. He does. Adam has his hand up.
So perhaps being the last question, I want to inquire personally. You know, you are extraordinarily talented and well accomplished, and you could easily make a lucrative career in either of the major parties. So why are you a libertarian?
Well, you know, I was a Republican many years ago. I worked on the Dick DeVos for governor campaign in 2006, and it was shortly thereafter that I walked away from the Republican Party because I didn't feel they were small government. I knew I was a libertarian at that point, but you know, I watched the libertarians and they just didn't seem very serious. You know, it's, you know, the things that were in the news were, you know, just almost a joke. You know, we weren't running candidates, you know, but after I finally, Steve planned the Mid-Atlantic Liberty Festival, which imploded spectacularly because we had some really terrible speakers who were invited. Sorry, Steve. But you know, that in conjunction with the state convention was enough to draw me in. And when I came to the convention and met everyone, I just knew that I was home. Politics is a very jealous mistress. It sucks you in. When I left the GOP, I thought to myself, I never want to be involved with this again. I mean, now I'm even more involved than I was then. And, you know, burnout is very real and I am exhausted at times. But at this point, I have such a team of wonderful people around me and we're all depending on each other that, you know, I want to be here supporting all of them to continue this work that we've started. I think that libertarianism really is the way. I am more of a classical liberal, you know, bordering on minarchist. I do believe that there's some role of government. I'm not an anarchist, but we need all of those types in the party. Joel just asked me about turkey bacon. So, you know, I'm a libertarian because I believe 90% of our platform, like it's just a comfortable fit for me. It wouldn't be a comfortable fit for me to be in one of the authoritarian parties. Joel, turkey bacon is a no-go. I'm sorry, Bonnie. I mean, what part of the turkey do you cut the bacon from?
Well, you got my vote. That's enough.
Bacon comes from pigs.
Amen.
Hey, I agree that the name is terrible, but the flavor is spectacular.
I mean, it's like
No.
you know, it's like mechanically separated turkey bits.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's like saying I like the taste of cardboard. Get out of this call.
Well, I do like wheat toast, and that is very similar. So
Well then,
All right.
So I see two hands up, Sam Robb, Julie Perry, and then I guess we'll wrap it up.
I would like to defer to Julie because I believe my question is very significant and I would like to ask it at the end.
That's fine with me. You talked about burnout. I'm just curious, what is your plan for your personal boundaries to make sure that you are, should you be elected chair, that you are a healthy chair that is continuing to function and we don't lose you? You take on a lot
Yeah.
and you've got a lot on your plate. So what are your personal boundaries that you plan to manage?
You know, that has been something that I've had to get a lot better at, even as a vice chair. At this point, you know, I mean, there was a time in my libertarian activism where I was always on my phone, always answering questions. And, you know, the truth is, at this point, I just simply can't do that. You know, I set expectations. I let people know, you know, I will get back to you in 24 hours. But like at the end of the day, I can't be tied to my phone answering messages as they come in. You know, I do plan, you know, Sam has a wonderful idea, you know, that he started with the Jorgensen campaign and has continued as Western Vice Chair, where he has, you know, monthly office hours. And I would really like to implement something like that. I mean, really, when it comes to my family and my career, it's just a matter of, you know, I have to budget my time. So there will be a certain, you know, hour of the day where this is where I'm going to handle libertarian stuff. And, you know, those hours will probably expand when we're recruiting candidates where I may be taking a half a day off work, but I have to plan for it because I've learned that if I don't do that, it can be overwhelming. You know, that really, and, you know, again, you know, those personal boundaries where, you know, I apologize, but I may not have people on my personal Facebook page. I mean, really all that's there are pictures of my kids and dogs anyway. So, you know, people that I've met that are personal friends, you know, of course I want you there, but I don't really post libertarian things there anyway. And really, like, I mean, the longer I'm in this, the less I care about social media. I don't even really sit and scroll through it anymore. I'd rather be spending time with my kids. And, you know, people always send me invites to their pages and stuff, and I just don't really follow it as much as I used to. I have a management career. I work in healthcare finance. My kids are in 3rd and 1st grade. So, you know, and if you want anything done, ask a busy person. Like I do. I have a father who's severely disabled that I go to Michigan monthly to help care for. He was injured with it was a medical injury at the beginning of the pandemic. So, you know, despite all of these things, I was the secretary of the national delegation. I ran for office, for statewide office. I ran the petition drive. You know, I mean, I know that I can parse my time very effectively to get this stuff done, but that is exactly what it is I'm parsing my time. So, you know, you may not get me immediately, but I'll always answer you within a few hours. And again, you know, when it comes to, you know, negativity and such, I mean, I only really want to talk about productive things. So, you know, I'll probably shut that down pretty quickly. Every little bit of time that I spend on infighting is taking me away from organizing counties and winning elections. So when your time's limited, you have to use it wisely.
All right.
What you got, Sam?
I find that it's kind of disappointing. You get a little bit older and people no longer ask you the really important questions. Jen, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Well, Sam, my kids like to remind me almost daily that dinosaurs are still among us because birds are dinosaurs. So I have to answer in that context. I'm going to say the red-tailed hawk.
Beautiful answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree. That was the most important question.
Birds aren't real, says Joel. Well, thank you, everyone. You were very easy on me.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am.
I appreciate it. I will see everybody at the convention here coming up in a few days. It's going to be the Thunderdome, but you know, it'll be fine. We'll make it through it. it's going to be a great convention. Being on this particular convention committee has been amazing because we've had barrier after barrier come up because of, you know, just the pandemic and, you know, just the number of people who are interested, and they have just rolled with it and organized. Like, I can't say enough about this group of activists. When you talk about up and coming leaders, every person who's on that committee is doing an amazing job. Like, I mean, every single barrier that's come up, they have just worked around it. So we're going to have a great convention. I'm looking really forward to seeing everyone. No hangovers this time.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. I'm gonna stop the recording now.